Hi, everyone. I'm Wissahickon Tittman. I'm the Executive Director of Friends of the Wissahickon, and we'll be getting started in a few minutes here as we look to get a few more folks. This was a very well-subscribed evening to talk about restrooms. So we have a great presentation and update on the information we presented in the fall. I think it was November. I see we're up to about 36 people. So, hi, Rosa. Everyone, we have Rosa Mannion from NV5 who's with us. And it's good to see you.
You too.
We have some exciting new data to share and costs, and we've been seeing a lot of great feedback on social media about the plan and questions. So we know people are excited. I'm excited. I'm gonna wait till we get to 40 people and then we'll get rolling. $37. Of course, as soon as I said, folks, that we were going to start at 40 people, then
I know you could have
stalled out.
Can we meet our goal? 1 minute left. Come on, folks.
2 more participants. Let's do it public radio style here. Help us meet our goal. All right, well, we're going to take it away at 38 participants so far. And I think I'm starting off, and the real good stuff is your portion, Rosa. So I'll get started. Again, I'm Wissahickon Tittman. I'm the Executive Director of Friends of the Wissahickon. We are here for the second public meeting on our Wissahickon Valley Park Restroom Master Plan. And this is a great project. We've been working very closely with our fabulous partners at Parks and Recreation, with funding and support from the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, and with the guidance and expertise of the wonderful folks at NV5, our consultants on this project. So a real team effort. And then last but not least, all the great public feedback we've gotten either through surveys or through feedback from these meetings, as well as through social media and comments. So just a real great effort. And with that, I'll talk a little bit about our agenda for the night.
Oh, sorry, hold on. There we go.
That was your cue.
I know. I got that.
And here's our agenda. The very interesting stuff is again, all that Rose is going to cover, where we are with our process, the counts, locations, what it might cost, how we'll take care of it, and where we go from here. We hope to accomplish all of steps 1 through 9 in about 35 to 40 minutes and leave a good bit of time for any questions at the end. I will say we have turned off the chat, but you will see periodically a link to a question submission form. And please feel free throughout the program to submit questions. We'll be sorting through those and making sure that we answer them when we get to the end. So with that, I will tell you a little bit more about Friends of the Wissahickon.
Thank you.
So FOW, founded in 1924, over 3,000 members and friends. 44 of you are here tonight. Official park partner of Philadelphia Parks and Recreation. And what does that mean? We're working to make the park and the creek that runs through it cleaner, more accessible, preserving the acreage, which includes the forest, our meadows, streams, caring for the trails, and really providing a voice for the watershed and the users for the park. And one thing we've heard from voices all around is that people would really love more bathrooms and better quality bathrooms, which leads a little bit to talk about why a restroom master plan. And this is a question we've gotten, we really probably do need more bathrooms and better care of the bathrooms we have. Friends of the Wissahickon has actually, in partnership with Parks and Recreation over the last decade and a half, added three units in 2 different locations. And those, have been a real amenity. And when we started thinking beyond that, it was looking at maybe doing it more comprehensively. And not every location is the best fit for every kind of restroom. And we also probably needed a better sense of where our priority areas are. So looking at a user count. So there's really the values that informed the need for a master plan. And now I'm going to turn it over to Rosa to talk about the nitty-gritty of master planning and get into some of the details of our project to date.
Thanks, Rufian. And it is the nitty-gritty. I'll try to keep it, high level, but with enough detail so you could see the work that we've done, but not get too bogged down because there is quite a lot of detail in here. It's been a pleasure working with FOW and Parks and Recreation and everybody else on this project. We all love the Wissahickon and want to do the best by it, which is why we're undertaking a master plan to begin with. You absolutely don't want people making gut decisions in a park that's this complicated. So a master plan really is a roadmap for intelligent, responsible decisions in a park. We want to analyze everything that's going on, update the visitor count, talk to everybody that's involved that has a stake in what we might be proposing, look at utilities, access points, look at the zoning code, look at the floodplain, and then try to make the best decisions with our client and our team and the city about how best to spend very limited resources. So it's not a shovel-ready blueprint at the end of the day. It's a roadmap for getting to a pilot project, which is the ultimate goal after this point. So that might seem, achingly slow to some people, but it really is good that it takes a long time to make improvements in a complex public space. It means that people are taking care and making informed decisions. So a lot of text on this slide, sorry about that. So far, we have completed an assessment of the park in general, existing restroom facilities, what state they're in. We've talked to a ton of people in the city, at PWD, in Parks and Rec, Pennsylvania DEP, all kinds of folks, business owners in the park. We've reviewed and summarized different types of facilities that could be appropriate here. Obviously, it's an urban environment. We need things that are low maintenance, durable, and can handle the number of visitors that this park sees. We looked at the last official count that was done in 2011, about 10 years ago now. FOW installed 12 infrared trail counters to get updated counts 10 years later. We've analyzed the data. Many of you have participated in the online survey and in-person surveys. We identified potential locations for new facilities in the park, and I'll explain a little later how we arrived at those locations. We had public meeting number 1. We developed the master plans for each facility, looked at costing, and now we're here at public meeting number 2 to share with you the potential for restrooms in the park. So first, to talk quickly about the final 21 visitor count. As I noted, there were 12 infrared counters in the park. We don't rely just on that. We also corrected those counts with manual hand counts because a sensor is not infallible. It can, if people are stacked up in a row, it might count 1 person instead of 4. The data indicate about double the visitation from 10 years ago, which suggests that current visitation is about 2 million people per year, which is incredible. But then I have to disclaimer that number by saying that it's a very porous park with many entrances. So it's very difficult to say there are exactly 2 million people visiting this park. It could be a lot more, it could be less. It's not as if there's one entrance where we could easily count people coming in and out. Interestingly, Valley Forge National Historical Park also has about 2 million visitors a year. They have almost double the acreage, and they have 55 permanent toilets, whereas the Wissahickon has 15. So, you know, a lot more visitation per acre, much more intense use, much less facilities and infrastructure. And, you know, talking to operations people there, they of course complain still about people using the bathroom outside, even if they have 55 toilets, because things fail and people get frustrated and go behind the building. So existing restrooms in the park, we counted them up, located them, assessed their state. I said there were 15 total toilets, but really there are about 7 that exist year round and are open. 1 at Kitchens, 2 at WEC, which is up a steep hill near the environmental center, and then 4 at Valley Green Inn. And that's really it in terms of public bathrooms that are open year round and accessible. So really there are 7 restrooms. So we wanted to count daily average traffic at each spot. This slide is showing you the breakdown for high average counts. It's what you would probably expect. The highest is at Bell's Mill, followed by Northwestern, then Valley Green, then Red Covered Bridge, and then Bluestone Bridge. Changes and trends from 10 years ago, there seem to be higher counts at the Bluestone Bridge, indicating more use in the south, a bit lower counts at Devil's Pool, and as I noted, about double the visitors when you compare the counts at each sensor. Low traffic areas today are Glenfern, Rittenhouse, Pachella, and Kitchen Lane. The survey results were great, much higher than we were expecting. We got about 1,400 responses total, over 1,400. And 93% of those respondents need to use the bathroom while they're in the park. I know every time I go, I have to go, but that's anecdotal. But we have survey evidence that people need to use the bathroom. And also kind of what you would expect, we asked people where they thought new bathrooms should go. Valley Green Inn, Bell's Mill, 10 Box / Rittenhouse Town, Northwestern, and Red Covered Bridge kind of top that list. We took the visitor traffic, looked at how many people say they need to use a restroom, to come up with the column on the right that tells us, as a best guess, how many people will need to use a bathroom at each of these locations on an average day. This helps us figure out how many units there should be, what type of facility can accommodate that volume, etc. So we have our count. We know approximately where we need bathrooms. We know where people want them. We want to look at, we want to identify specific sites. So we set limitations for ourselves that are disturbing as little of the natural landscape as possible, obviously, using existing impervious paved areas as much as we can. We want to stay out of the floodplain as much as we can, and we want to reuse existing structures wherever we can. We want to be inclusive and accommodating, so at least one wheelchair accessible cabin per facility, more where we can do it. Diaper changing tables everywhere, that's a pretty easy one. Hand washing sinks topped the list of amenities that people wanted, but They're not possible everywhere. It's a matter of cost and utilities, but we'll get into that in a bit. And then we want all of our facilities to be open year round. They can be, utilities can be heat traced to prevent freezing pipes. And we can provide some additional amenities like bike racks and dog hitching posts and water bottle filling stations where we can. And then very critical is accessibility for maintenance trucks, which, as you know, in the Wissahickon, there isn't, that isn't everywhere. So we have to be careful about where we're siting things for truck access. People really want hand washing sinks and water bottle filling stations. And accessible restrooms was the third most requested, not an amenity, but, desire for a new restroom. Family friendly, baby changing stations, wayfinding, park maps and information. This was really helpful to see. And then the other thing that limits where we can put things, of course, are utilities. Public utilities in the park are very unpredictable sometimes. There's no one size fits all solution for each site. Some sites have sewer, some sites have sewer and water. Luckily, all sites have electricity pretty close by. For a couple sites, we recommend actually drilling a well, and we've talked to DEP about this, and it seems feasible. We want to try to avoid large toilet openings where we can, just because people throw all kinds of stuff in there, and that can be expensive to maintain vaults where people have to pick out garbage before they can vacuum it up. And then I just wanted to have a quick note on composting toilets. We started out really excited about composting, but when we did the visitor count and saw how high the numbers were, it really doesn't support composting. This one facility, for example, it has a small chamber, but it only accommodates 60 daily uses above 65 degrees Fahrenheit. And anything above that for this particular size, the functioning of the composting stops and it just becomes a vault toilet, and it has to be serviced anyway. A couple of different types that we looked at. There are a couple examples of vault toilets on the left, and then fully plumbed versions on the right. These are pretty economical sort of models. They're not prefabricated, but they're like kit buildings that are constructed on site, very durable and made for urban situations. And then we heard a lot, how come we can't just do portables? That seems to work. The thing is it really doesn't work. One vault toilet is equivalent to 16 portables. And the note in blue at the bottom, in 1 month in August, FOW spent almost $3,000 for 4 portable units that weren't even enough to meet the demand. So it's really just a waste of money. Vacuuming, based on the visitation, vacuuming one vault would cost around $3,000 a year. So compared to $3,000 a month, it's kind of a no-brainer. Additionally, portables sometimes are located in the floodplain, and then if they aren't removed before a storm, that can be very bad for the creek, obviously. Some images of additional amenities like dog hitching posts and bicycle racks, image of the water fountain filling station where we can do it. Okay, getting into the meat of the stuff here. Don't hurt yourself trying to look at that map on the right. We've broken it up into 3, and I'll walk through south, central, and north in a little bit more detail, and then zoom into each potential facility. What we found after cooking all those ingredients in a pot is 8 sites that really lend themselves to new facilities, new or adaptively reused facilities. 4 sites where we want to adaptively reuse existing structures, and 4 where it seems appropriate to put a new facility. The existing bathrooms are a blend of women and men, but we'd recommend all unisex for new restrooms. So starting in the south near 10 Box and Bluestone Bridge, just to orient you a bit, Schuylkill River's down here, Wissahickon's flowing up the middle, and Henry Avenue is cutting across here, and Ridge Ave is here. You guys can see my pointer, right? Okay. And 10 Box is located right here where this orange toilet icon is. And that is an excellent location for adaptively reusing that building and putting 2 units in there. Next, there we go. So 10 Box was built in the late 30s. These are 1939 plans. And it used to have 2 restrooms in the back. Lincoln Drive is over here, and Forbidden Drive is down here. This is the shelter. You walk underneath the roof here to cross and follow along the Montashone to Rittenhouse Town. But this wing used to have a women's toilet and a men's toilet. I think they've been closed since the 70s or 80s. I'm not really sure when this building was closed up. The front room used to be a guard room, and there was a bike rental place in this area. This is the wing where the restrooms used to be. This is the guard shelter. This is the wall that's retaining, and the Montashone is way down there at the bottom. Oh, you could see it over here. This nice gentleman is opening the manhole and looking inside for us to see where what utilities are in there. The old drawing showed sinks and toilets, so we knew that there was water at some point. There's still sewer that seems functional. He couldn't trace the water, and no public plans show public water in that area any longer. So we are actually recommending a well at 10 Box, and we're assuming that there's no public water any longer. Here's an image of it. You can see the bike vendor on the left. So, you know, here we want to restore the historic function of the structure as a restroom. As I noted, we'd recommend drilling a well and repairing the sewer lateral. I'll show detailed plans for each site, but I don't want to get stuck on them. These were more for feasibility and to arrive at a good cost that was reasonable. So this unit is an ADA accessible unit. There would be a wheelchair access from the patio into that door that would need to be cut wider to accommodate a wheelchair. And then another unit in the back. And then possibly over here, bike parking and a place to hitch your dogs. Moving to the middle, Valley Green and upper parking lot. Valley Green Inn is here. The Valley Green Road is here, going off the page. And in this intensely used part of the park, we are proposing to adaptively reuse part of the warming shed down here and then install a new facility in the upper parking lot on Valley Green Road. This context plan is a little confusing, but it's showing you that the warming shed is fully in the floodplain, which is this blue dashed line. We don't recommend that a lot. This is one of the few places where, due to the volume of use and the need for wheelchair access, it made sense. We would recommend, let me show you these first. These are just some existing photos of the spot. There's another photo that shows, yeah, here. This shows better this dash line. This little space is where we'd like to carve in a restroom. And then we'd recommend restoring and maintaining the existing non-ADA restrooms. We did look at the feasibility of making those ADA accessible, but it didn't lend itself to that. It would cause a lot of disturbance, and I think we would have to replace that little building entirely. It didn't accommodate ADA turning, and it's too high up. So here, floodproofing would be required. It looks sort of like that. You have to identify the base flood elevation and then waterproof the building, and the door needs to be able to be sealed before a flood event. This is a zoom in plan showing how that lays out. This is the existing storage area back here. There's sewer behind and there's water in the front. There would be potentially a water bottle filling station here, an ADA unit on the right, and a family unit on the left. At the upper lot, we have sewer, but we don't have water. And so here we propose, in the first optimal case, drilling a well for this high use site. And if that isn't feasible or too expensive, a vault toilet could be an option here. And then of course, guard railing or bollards to protect from cars. Here's potentially how it could look. 3 units here, 2 ADA units, and then a mechanical closet and a family unit in the middle. Moving up to the north, this is Northwestern Ave here. Cedar's House Cafe is right here. Forbidden Drive is the dark gray line. And starting at the south, the facility at Rex Avenue is one that would be great to be reopened. It was a composting facility, but it failed for a variety of reasons. And we are recommending to reuse that building and to convert it to a conventional restroom with 2 units. Bell's Mill is the hardest area in a lot of ways in this master plan. There's a small structure on the east side of the creek that we'd recommend reusing, and then proposing a new facility in the upper lot there as well. This one is very similar to the Valley Green upper lot, in that there's no water, but it's a very high use site. And then finally, one new facility at the end of Forbidden Drive at Northwestern. So first, looking at the site at Rex, this is the one that used to be a composting facility, but has been closed for a while. Here there's water and sewer, which is great, and they're pretty close by. We would recommend renovating the existing building into a plumbed restroom. This structure also is partially in the floodplain and must be floodproofed. And there's also an existing drainage issue upslope that needs to be resolved. This shows the site a little bit closer. This is the floodplain, the blue dashed line, and then resolving that drainage issue in the back by installing a swale that goes around the pathway. There would be an accessible unit here, and then a family unit on the back. Moving to the upper lot, this is the trail between the upper lot and Forbidden Drive. It's pretty steep. There's sewer back here. There's no water in Bell's Mill. So this is another site where we'd recommend drilling a well. But again, if it's infeasible or if it's too expensive to connect to the sewer down this slope, this could be another opportunity for a vault. This is similar to the Valley Green plan, but just showing you on this site, 3 more units, 2 wheelchair accessible. Bells Mill East, as I mentioned, is very challenging. Anybody that's parked in this lower lot and then tried to walk to Forbidden Drive knows how dangerous that is on the road. And then of course the upper lot is high up that trail. There's an existing WPA building over here that is perfect for restrooms. We could fit 2 utilities in there, or sorry, 2 units in there. Sewer is proximate, there's no water. We again recommend drilling a well here. The biggest challenge here is that crossing conditions are pretty unsafe. There's a concrete median that would need to be cut down so that at least people can safely park and then cross the road to use this restroom. It lays out like this, where there's an ADA unit in the front and then a family unit in the back. And we think that this may be in the floodplain, so we've included floodproofing in the costing anyway, but it may be that once survey is acquired that we're not actually in the floodplain, and we wouldn't need that. And finally, on the north side of the park at Northwestern, there's a tiny area of existing impervious that we would like to put a new facility on. Here, water and sewer are proximate, as well as electricity, of course. And it's small, but we could fit 2 units there that could be fully plumbed with access from the parking lot. So those are kind of the nitty-gritty plans, and we used those to figure out how much it might cost to get all this. And then we rolled it up so that we could see an average cost per toilet. So these numbers seem crazy high. They're based on today's costs. They don't include escalation. We would need survey, full design, permitting, and the costs assume that each project is standalone, but obviously if things are all built together or surveyed all together or designed all together, there could be some cost savings there. And we have, of course, prevailing wage rates, but it works out to be approximately $120,000 per toilet for a flush toilet. Vault toilets are a lot cheaper at about $80,000. No utility work is involved, so that brings the cost way down. And then adaptive reuse really isn't that much different from new. It seems to be about $10,000 more per toilet. These are the detailed costs for each site. This column here, budget cost, is the range that we've estimated for each site as we've shown it on the previous plans. And then here is kind of the budget cost per toilet at the far right. They're all within like $215 to $340 is the highest number. Blue are plumbed. This brown color is vault, and pink is, blue is new and plumbed. Sorry, blue is new and plumbed. Pink is adaptively reused and plumbed. And then brown is vault. The vault toilets are definitely the least expensive for the Bells Mill West and for Valley Green Upper. Both are about $225 to $250 all in, including, design, permitting, survey, and the stuff itself and labor, yada yada. The most expensive seems to be Bells Mill West, and I think because of that sewer connection length where it's plumbed. So to talk a little bit about operations and maintenance, nobody wants to spend that much money on facilities that can't be maintained. We heard that 4% of park users are very satisfied with the existing restrooms in the park. And, we know that's because they are frequently locked or not stocked, or they're dirty and a little scary. Anyway, so our recommendations from that point of view are opening and closing of restrooms should be consistent and reliable. Cleaning and stocking should occur every day at minimum. Busy places like Bells Mill, Northwestern, Valley Green might need more. And then low season and high season hours might vary. So we looked at costs for maintaining facilities from a staffing point of view and a utility cost point of view, these costs assume that we're cleaning bathrooms every day, year round, and assumes fair wage and health insurance, and assumes utility costs where needed. So per flush toilet is about $5,000 a year. Vault toilets are a little higher because you have to pay for someone to come vacuum it out a couple times a year. That's about $5,500 per toilet. So if magically Ruffian found a ton of money, it would cost about $185,000 to clean and maintain all potential and existing facilities in the park. And then another fun fact is Valley Forge has 4 full-time custodial staff, and they're considering hiring 2 more soon. They maintain the bathrooms, the 55 bathrooms, also the visitor center, and 1 other building. And of course, the Wissahickon has 0 full-time custodial staff. So next, as I mentioned, it is a master plan. It's not blueprint ready, shovel ready kind of stuff. There's 2 more weeks for public comments on our really nifty wiki map. We have all these sites mapped, and we would love to have you prioritize which ones are most important to you, knowing that, you know, all of them aren't going to be built all at once. We've got to choose a pilot and figure out which ones are the most fundable, which ones make the most sense right away. I'll share the directions on the next slide. We'll share the master plan with the funder for final comment. Then we'll issue the final 100% complete plan and share it publicly. Then fundraising will begin for existing and potential restrooms. Then the pilot project will be selected and the schedule determined for opening. I know it seems painfully slow, but I promise it's a good thing that it's slow. The wiki map is open until March 1st. It's easy to get to. I think that we'll probably put the link in the chat, but there's also a code to the right that you can scan, or you can Google Wikimap Wissahickon Restroom and you'll find it. It's very easy. I'll leave that up for a sec. Okay, that's good. And that's all we have for you. We would love to hear some questions.
That was great, Rosa. Thank you so much.
Sure.
And we do have a few questions, and probably a few more will come in. I did want to, before I dive into the questions, talk a little bit about circling back to when I mentioned why this master plan and how we got started, and DCNR being a key funder. But there's also significant individual support, financial support that came to this issue, to this topic, and a willingness for, and really a love for the Wissahickon and a love for more bathrooms in it from an individual donor. And that really allowed us to go after that DCNR money to do this project and hopefully get a pilot project completed. And so, we've shown some big numbers here, and it's going to take a bit of an effort to do some of these. And I'm just putting it out there that individual contributions really make things happen in a great way. So I'm so grateful to these friends that made this contribution, have believed in the project, and the Friends of the Wissahickon have believed in the Friends of the Wissahickon, and encouraged to champion for everyone in the park clean, accessible, and more bathrooms. And that leads into a question we have. The first one, or actually I'm going to take the second question first, because this is another point that I thought we should make, that we're doing this project in partnership with the City of Philadelphia. And so when we're talking about these costs, it's really then informing a conversation that FOW and Parks and Recreation have together. So there's been no determination about who's, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, yes. Who's funding this, and who's sharing costs? Our Parks Department is deeply committed and under-resourced, and so we haven't had that fulsome conversation. In fact, this master plan informs those conversations about what do resources look like for maintenance as well as capital projects, and how do we do these things together. So that wasn't really a question for you. I asked the question, I answered it, but this one is for you, Rosa. The bathrooms being proposed for floodproofing reply on ample notice of a flood. It seems those proposed bathrooms that need floodproofing would need frequent repairs.
I think that would be part of a larger operations and maintenance question. Who would be installing floodgates? Would it be FOW? Would it be the park rangers? There'd have to be a protocol in place for, oh, a heavy storm is coming, and we know exactly.
This level of alert is put out from the weather service.
Yeah.
Put those gates in, whether or not.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
I promised more questions, but I'm
Okay.
not seeing more questions. Sorry, you had another point?
I don't know that there would be frequent damage if the floodproofing was done correctly and the gates, and there was a protocol for installing gates.
Yeah. And we're not looking at delicate ceramic here. We're really going to go for those nice, really strong steel, or
yeah,
things like that. Hardy toilets.
Things that can take abuse from people and from water.
Yes. It's all about the water. Where is it? Where is it coming from? Do we have it to wash our hands? So, well, we've answered every question.
I can't believe there weren't more questions, but okay.
We did have another question earlier, and you alluded to it. And that question, I think, came to us on social media, kind of about the length of the process, and why don't we just go ahead and do it? And I think we've talked about that a little bit here tonight, that it's really important to have even if the questions and the answers seem a bit obvious, to dive a little deeper, get the facts behind the gut instinct. And also, as we've highlighted, these are not inexpensive improvements to make. So we do need to get the information out there, understand what they're going to cost, and fundraise. So FOW.org/donor, and lots of ways to give: stock, credit cards, checks, and we take it all. Just write bathroom in the memo line, and this project. Great. Well, we will. Do you want to put the wiki page back up?
Yeah, sure.
You can get a chance to do the QR code, and you can scan that. Give us some great feedback. Help us finalize things. I think in addition to these great cost estimates and the site conditions and recommendations, the count, getting a little bit closer to some degree of knowledge on how much usership has increased. If we're looking at, around a little over 1 million in 2011 to somewhere around 2 million now, thinking slightly concerned about what does that number go to 10 years from now. So just having that count has been is a really valuable part of this process, not just for bathrooms, but for everything we do here. All right, I'm going to refresh the question sheet one more time and ask anybody. Oh, see, we got one. Any thoughts on security for these new toilets?
Well, one phrase that we've talked about in past meetings is making the restrooms functional and clean, but not necessarily comfortable. We don't want people taking up residence in them. We don't want people hanging out in them for too long. And I think we've been careful to choose models that have a function that's clearly the bathroom and using the bathroom, and there's not a whole lot of room for other stuff.
Their use. And I think also, you know, as we talked through with the city about any of these, you know, a lot of holdbacks to certain features that, you know, whether it's automatic locks or having, you know, we do also still have some cell phone deficit areas in the Wissahickon where these might create opportunities to either have better cell phone access, but technology is changing rapidly all the time. And so thinking about, I think, not letting some of these hurdles hold us back from envisioning the future on these, but and really advocating. I think is also, we're getting into budget season in the city. And so if bathrooms and park infrastructure and park visitor safety and all of these things are of interest to folks, budget season is the time to get out there and let our elected officials know that parks are important along with everything else. So check out our great friends at the Philadelphia Parks Alliance and the work they're going to be doing, advocating with all of their great partners and friends groups to make those requests this year. Okay. Another. Okay, we've got more. People found the sheet. And we're, let's see, do we have an annual cost for the porta potties used in the past? It might help folks to understand how much is already spent annually on no permanent solutions. Great point. And the porta potties are a cost that is part of Parks and Recreation's maintenance to the Wissahickon throughout the city on an annual contract. And so I think that's a great question. I'd have to make an inquiry because I know that the portables, the costs that we use were from a small installation of portables that FOW did during a really peak time. But the annual installation that happens is part of Parks and Rec's budget on a citywide contract. So I'd have to get the full budget there. Just a note, restrooms and bathrooms, but folks, these are just restrooms and not a place to bathe. I'm also just an FYI that I've got some information on. We answered that one. A lot of great questions about the ongoing maintenance. And I think that's another reason why a master plan, why a restroom master plan was really to get a sense of while numbers change and not everything can be pinned down to an exact penny, just getting a sense of what the maintenance costs would be, again, so that the friends and other partners working with Parks and Recreation can start thinking about not just the capital investment, which is a one-time cost, but that ongoing maintenance and where is that coming from? So good question. And questions about cell service. It's possible that we could get one of the carriers to provide more coverage there. I believe AT&T has provided some additional coverage through some relays installed in 2019. I think there are challenges when we've explored it as far as getting better park-wide coverage due to the nature of the valley. but I'm not a cell phone expert. Do you have any insights on cell coverage, Rosa?
I do not.
So, right.
I did have a fun summer job at a AT&T wireless call center, like
Oh.
4 years after cell phones were popular and people's bills were insane.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I would get calls
Must be
every
a joke.
like, my bill is $500. I can't pay that. Well, you shouldn't talk so much. Sorry.
All right. Oh, great information, everyone. Parks Alliance Budget Rally is at City Hall on April 21st at 5 p.m. Thank you for submitting that. Another question, will the existing porta potties be eliminated? No time soon. I mean, this is a master plan is generally something that an organization tackles over the course of many years, possibly a decade. Some institutions have master plans that are so forward-looking, they're 20 or 30 years out. Hopefully we're not that far forward-looking with this. But I think it would be great if, as we were adding new facilities, we were continuing to have porta potties where necessary, hopefully not in the floodplain, and that they were, just adding to capacity when we really needed it versus being the solution all the time. And then eventually, in a perfect world, we wouldn't need them, except for big permitted events that required additional units. Do you have thoughts on porta potties, Rosa?
I feel bad for making I think earlier in the presentation I said porta potties are a waste of money, but only in the long-term scheme of a master plan. Obviously, they're needed until permanent facilities could be installed. Honestly, it's either that or letting everyone pee in the park.
It's one, I think it's one tool that we have. It's just, I think, very important to show the capacity differences. And so, putting one porta potty out that, can handle maybe a day's worth at most of contribution doesn't solve our problem. And then becomes also part of that kind of maintenance deficit when service contracts can't keep up with demand. So, okay, like I said, I'll check my list. These are great questions. Great. More information from helpful friend. Cell connectivity issues being readdressed now with City Council's help. And we have some information that there should be a public hearing on cell phone connectivity. So as we find that out, we'll share that with the public. All right. We're coming up on 7 o'clock, everyone, and we have kept 37 people, so we've lost a few. And I don't see any new questions now. So, Rosa, thank you so much for leading us through the second one of these and for leading this project. I think there's so much useful and exciting information that's going to really make a difference here in the Wissahickon, and we're so grateful to you and the team at NB5 for being our partners on it.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Excellent. All right, everyone. We're going to say goodnight.
Good night.
Have a good evening.
You too.